Is anyone there? Okay, we're good. Audio is good. I've got the chat here. All right, so in the last video, or since the last video, I've discovered that there may have been an issue with the way the Flask module was installed. So I posted a fix for that. I'm curious, I've only heard from 2 people that they've had the issue, but I think the way we did things, everybody should be having the issue, so I probably should have heard about it from more than 2 people. But anyway, it's fixed, or there is a fix for it. So if you go to, I think I just in the announcements right now, I'll have to update the Ralph script to include these extra steps. So if you go to figured out the Flask module fix, okay, you run these commands. Let's just update it now or else I'll forget. So So these are the setup steps we did for Ralph's script. We changed the file permissions on the install.sh file so that we can execute it by running this command. And then once all that is completed, this is the fix. So if anyone hasn't done the if you haven't done the fix yet, all you have to do is run this command, and what this does is it uses yum, which is the package manager we're using on CentOS. All right, I believe this -y is telling it that it will just say yes to any questions during the installation. And then to install this, python-pip. So we're using yum, our package manager in Linux, to install Python pip, and pip is a Python package manager which allows us to install Flask, which once we have that installed, we can then use in our programming to start a web server and program the backend in Python. All right, so I should fix that. Oh, I was gonna put a little comment in here. Okay. And if you guys create anything useful for the class, I'll name it after you. Okay, so getting back to where we were. Unfortunately, I think you may not have been able to complete any of the things that I assigned. I don't think there were that many. Let's see, you wouldn't have been able to do this Hello Flask through GitHub, and you wouldn't have, well, I mean, you could have done it, it just wouldn't have worked for you. But to get it to work, you just make those changes. Web Caesar would have also required those changes, so let's see, some of you may have actually figured this out on your own anyway, or maybe some people just submitted something. But even if you turned it in, if you want to go back and make those fixes and then do it, fix it so that it's right, I won't give you any penalty or anything. We don't have that many projects in this class because, you're expected to know quite a bit to complete these projects. And so we're making our way towards the user sign up app, and we had talked about flick list. Let's see, I have it open still. Okay, we don't need that anymore. All right, here we go. Looks like we were doing let's just check the terminal. Okay. So I want to go into my class folder. And we're working on the flick list. So I'm going to go into flick list Flask. And then this is my local repository for the flick list app that I made, that I'm making. Let's take a look at, well, let's check what branch it's on first. So let's do git branch. Okay, so we were on walkthrough 3, and I think I'd finished that. And we were ready to look at the studio part of that. Okay, so in the walkthrough we saw how to, well, the really important thing here is using query parameters and redirects. All right. And now let's take a look at the actual studio. So we need to switch to that branch. So we're inside of our local repository. It's inside of this directory. We need to do Git Checkout and then the name of the branch. So we want Studio 3. And it's warning me, hey, you made changes to the current branch and you haven't saved those. We don't want to overwrite them, so you should save them. And so I can do a git add dot, and then git commit -m and the message. I don't remember. Oh, we did the added a redirect. I know we did that for sure. I think we did other things, but you can check the previous video. Added a redirect. Okay. So that added that change to my local repository. So it's saved there. And now if I want to put it on the remote repository, I need to make sure I'm up to date. So I'll do a Git Pull. It says it's up to date. Should have done that first before you make any changes. And then we're ready to push from our local repository to the remote. It's going to ask us to log in. Okay. And now that's updated on the remote repository. So if I go to github.com, I can see the changes that I made, and it'll show me, you know, what effect each commit had. All right. And I'm actually curious because I thought I was trying to commit more to show you guys how you would actually use this in the real world. Okay, so we need to find the flick list. Updated 1 minute ago. Okay. And we made changes to walk through 3, not walk 3 through. Walk through 3. And then I think earlier I had changed my name to John Doe to demonstrate how you can change your name in Git on Linux too, so that it could keep track of who did what. So I forgot to change that apparently. All right, and then if we take a look, it'll show us before I did the commit, here's what the code looked like on the left. And then after we did, after we did the commit, the code looked like this. And then we did a push so that we could see these changes on GitHub. So we're using Git to keep track of the versions of our files and the changes. And we're using GitHub as a place to hold our remote repository. All right, so yeah, the first part was add a way to retrieve a list of movies in a function. We did that. We changed the form, and we did this redirect. And then I probably had to adjust a few things, but apparently I didn't commit each change. So today I'm going to try to do that. It's just hard when you're doing something so small to divide it up into smaller pieces, but I think there's enough steps in here that we can do it. Okay. We need to switch our branch now. So check out Studio 3. We can see now all of the branches we've used. Okay, and our current one is Studio 3 using the git branch command. And now we want to open this with Visual Studio Code. So we do code dot, and again, I'm just going to keep saying this. This is opening the current directory. The dot represents the current directory in Visual Studio Code. Code is the command to open Visual Studio Code, and we're going to open the current directory there. All right. So you have to be in the right directory to use code dot to open what the files you want, or to have access to them. It opens the folder. Okay. So let's take a look here. We've got main.py, and remember in the studios, we have these to-do, these little sections in the comments called to-do. So right here, do this, do this, do this. So we'll be doing those, and I have I'm not sure if this, I added this myself, but I added a plugin for Visual Studio Code, which is great because Visual Studio Code is great because it has a lot of support, which means a lot of people are using it, so a lot of people are making tools for it. And so here we can see, because of the way they laid this out, you can use this plugin. If you just go to, if you want to check out plugins yourself, or I guess they're extensions here, you just go to extensions and you can search. So if you want a way to keep track of to-dos, like let's say you're going to be working on something over a long period of time, you may notice something that you need to change later, and you can make a little comment, and then later you can come back and find that easily by using something like this. So yeah, this one must be to-do tree, I think. There's different ones that you can use. But now I can just kind of skip around to them. I guess they're all three in the same place in this case. But if I have one, if I had one up here, and so if you don't remember, in Python you use the # to denote a comment. So I can just add a to-do here, and then you can put more information in there, like and you just put it right up against the to-do, so that way it knows to include it in the tag. Okay, so I could call this one fix stuff, or I could give it a priority level. You get the idea. And so this is another good way, if you're working with someone else, to kind of tell them what to do, or to communicate with them what they need to do. All right. So what are we actually doing here? So let's take a look at the studio directions. Okay. For the studio, your job is to include some validation on the add route to make sure the app responds appropriately no matter what the user has typed into that form. All right. So we grab the code. All right. And our task is to provide validation to protect from these three things. One, adding in code into the input text box. Okay, so it says you can include this in your page, and it will appear on the page as a button. Okay, so we'll save this, and in the terminal, I will go ahead and start the server. So I want to run the Python, or the main.py through Python to start the server. And then I can open a browser and visit this address, or I can control click it and it will open it for me. Okay, so we should be able to add, and then it will just tell us that it added, but it doesn't actually do anything. And if we do cross it off, it shows that. Okay, so not anything new there, but it was saying if we put in this code, it adds a button. All right. And so luckily this way just kind of creates a button for the local user who put that in. So there's not really much they can do with this example, but you do want to be careful. It just demonstrates how we sent code to a web server. So Flask caught it. This changed the output, and then this was sent back to me. So I got something into the server and out that wasn't supposed to be there. That's the scary part. Not that the button's there, because it doesn't do anything. All right. So we can use, to fix that, we can use the escape function from the CGI module. So when you see the term module, that's referring to Python code that someone else, or I guess we could make our own modules, has included. So we have this right here that says import CGI. So they've already included that for us. Let's see if that's the only place where they have it. Oops. So they're using it right here. All right. To prevent, where's the input? Here we go. Not sure why they're doing it there, but where we need to do it is in the to-do. Here it says, escape the user's input so that if they typed HTML, it doesn't what? Gotta turn wrap around on. Here it is. Now, when you're using word wrap, it's very important to pay attention to the line numbers. Because look, now 93 is being displayed on 2 lines, but it's only on 1 line, and we can tell that because this one is not numbered, right? So if I did put it onto another line, then you would see the number there. All right. So how do we get that to work? First, we need to identify what the input is. So if you remember from last time, we looked at a way to take in user input from query parameters in the address bar. So if you're fuzzy on that, you know, go look at the previous video. But the way we do that is this function right here. So we grab the property of this object, of the request object. We look in this dictionary to find the value of new movie. Okay, where does that come from? How do we know there's a new movie there? Well, that's being pulled from the form. Oh, it looks like they're using post now. Okay, never mind. They're using post now, so they're actually grabbing that information from the header message. Okay. So this right here pulls out a field called new movie, the value from a field called new movie, which you can think of as the text box or form, whatever form element had the value entered into. So we can look, this is the add route. So if someone comes to our website and the address has /add on the end, it's going to run this code. First thing it does is check to see if someone entered in information in the text box in the previous page, and then it grabs out, if it finds that, it grabs out the value for new movie, which would be whatever they typed in the text box. All right, and they store that in a variable called new movie. Okay, and then eventually it's going to print that out. So to prevent people from getting HTML code in there, we want to change the value in new movie. We want to strip it of code and replace that with those HTML character codes that are safe. So all we have to do is do CGI dot escape, and then we pass in the string we want to have stripped of dangerous code. And so here I am assigning, so here they're pulling the value from the form into new movie. So we have a variable called new movie. Down here I'm assigning a new value to new movie, which is the original value from line 90 after it's been processed through this CGI.escape function. Okay, so if I save this, we'll see if that crashed the server. Nope, it's still running. And so now we should be able to see if we add that, try to add that button in, here's what it looks like. All right, and so we can hit Control U to see what was actually sent back to us, and we see this before the words hacker apocalypse and this after. What are these? These are the HTML character codes that represent different characters. So ampersand LT, LT is for less than. This is the less than sign or opening angle bracket. It's called 1.5 million things depending on what you're doing with it. Here's the greater than sign, and then less than sign and greater than sign. So if you type it this way, it's not going to recognize that as HTML code, and nothing will change. So there we go. We fixed the add movie validation. All right, at least in terms of getting rid of HTML, or according to this, HMTL context. That's just a typo. Okay, so we made a change, we tested it, it worked. Time to commit. All right, so I like to have one terminal tab open for the server and then one for me to use for GitHub. So to open a new tab, you just have to do File, Open Tab, and then just pick the first one. And that'll give you, you can have as many open as you want. Actually, I don't think I've had more than 3, so I know you can have at least 3. Okay. So I need to navigate back to that folder we're working in. So I'm going to go back into this class folder. And remember, you guys organized it however you wanted, so you got to keep track of that. And then I want to go into flick list. Okay. And then I can, now that I'm here, if I do git push, so if I go out of order, it says everything's up to date. But wait, I made changes, didn't I? I need to commit them, right? Git commit. Added HTML validation to the add movie. Oh, to the add. We'll do add route. All right, so that'll work, right? Well, it gives me an error and it says there's nothing to commit. You haven't told me what you're actually going to commit. So this is why we need to do git add dot that says add everything in the current directory to the staging area to be committed. So we do that first. All right, and now if we do our push, it still says everything up to date. Should have said something about moving things. So after we add, we can't push until we commit. So git commit -m, and I don't need to be retyping this again. There we go. You can press up and down to move through your last few, your previous commands that you entered. Okay, now if I commit it, it says one file changed. This is what happened. And now I can do git push. Told you guys would be typing your password a lot. Okay. So that gets all changed in there, and I can see that on GitHub now. So we need to go. We're in the we're in the walkthrough branch right now, so we need to look at the Studio 3 branch because that's what we changed. Okay, and so they're using these branches to keep track of different points in the project in an easy to use manner, but at least in software development, you can think of creating different branches as creating basically a copy of a branch, or I'm sorry, a copy of the master branch. Generally, it can be more complicated than that, but you have you have a copy. Basically, creating a new branch generally copies a branch, an existing branch, so you have two copies of the same thing. That way, one person can make changes to the original branch, and someone else can make changes to the other branch. And then you have to do something called a merge once things are done. What this allows you to do is have various states of code. So you could have something, let's say we were going to add the ability to upload images to our flick list, but I want someone else to work on that. I would create a branch for them, and then with whatever changes they make, they would add to that branch. And then once they're done, they would say, okay, I got this feature added, and it works with everything that I've done. But at the meantime, you've been adding things to the original branch that aren't related to that. And so it's time to merge. And when you put the two together, you have the job of deciding on what changes to keep and what to get rid of until it works, and then you can merge the branch back into the original branch, and it will have all the features that you added and the features that someone else added. Anyway, in the capstone course, which you take your last semester of the programming degree, we will work with branches in that way, because you'll be working on a project with fellow students. Okay. In this one, we're just trying to create our own project. Okay, so Studio 3, we can check the commit. Okay, I added all these other to-dos. I forgot that. I probably should have committed after adding the to-dos so that they weren't tied into me adding this validation. The reason that's important is if there is a mistake that's made, so let's say I do a commit and things are kind of working, and then I do another commit, I do something and I do another commit, and this repeats, and then I do something and it breaks everything, and I think, whoa, you know, this is something I added a long time ago, I need to go back to the way things were working then. You can go back to a previous commit, basically go back in time for the code and go from a stable version. All right, so now if this had created an unstable version and I go back, I'm going to lose all of these notes I took, these to-do notes that I manipulated. So that really should have been a separate commit, so I don't lose those if I have. So you have to decide how much work you want to include in a commit. You don't want to do every line of code. It's usually good, you know, have a task in mind, do it, and then commit it. And try not to do a lot of little things that aren't related to that one task. You could just include a cleanup task if you want to just maybe clean up the code or add comments, make those separate commits. Or maybe if you added a feature, you can add the comments for that in the same commit. There's, you know, definitely a wrong way and a right way to use this, but there's also ways that are right that are better for different situations. All right, are we going to make it through this? I don't know. Let's see. So what's our next task here? We've got number 2. The user might fail to type anything at all, and then click the Add It button. If the user does not specify a movie, then you should reject their form submission and redirect them back to the home page with an error message that says something like, please specify the name of the movie you want to add. All right, there's our next task. Add another validation to check that the box is not empty when they hit submit. And if you're familiar with JavaScript, you can just check the value of the text box on the front end and warn them that way. But this way that we're doing it, we're letting the blank box get detected by the server, so that's allowed to send, and then we are sending an error back. Okay, so generally you would want validation on both ends, but since we want to test the validation on the back end, we're going to skip over the front end validation. So we got this one done, so since we did this one, we can delete it. All right. Next, so if the user typed nothing at all, redirect and tell them the error. All right, and I think we built an error into this, or a way to check errors into this before, for crossing off movies that don't exist. Let's see if they carried that forward or not. So I'm going to refresh the home page so I get the latest version provided by the server. And then how do I get an incorrect value in here? Because it's only going to show me the values that work, right? Well, we can go into the inspector and add our own here. Let's just change one. So let's change Star Wars to Stars War. Okay. And so now we have oh, I didn't change the value. Or did I? Star Wars. Wait. Now I'm confused. Stars War. That's what I want. Okay. And now if I select that, this text here between the opening and closing option tag is what's displayed, and the value here is what's used or passed by the form. And so here it says Stars War is not in your watch list, so you can't cross it off. So they do have a way to do errors. So let's figure out where they're doing that. So how would we know where to look? Well, let's check. Let's just look in the actual form code. So they've made it into these just giant strings at the top. So here's the form for adding, and we have a form for crossing off right here. Oh, down here. Okay. And so we have a submit button. When that gets clicked, it will go to wherever the action of the form is pointing. So in the form, we have an action of /crossoff, so it's going to the crossoff route. So we can go down to our routes. There's the index route. Here's our add route. And here's the crossoff route. All right. Okay. And so we look at how they're doing the error here. So if the crossed off movie is not in the watch list, they assign a string to error, and then they return a redirect back to the index, and they pass a value of whatever this error is to this query parameter. Okay. Sometimes as I'm explaining this stuff, I realize like how hard it is to follow. So now I'm going to follow up with a demonstration of what the heck I'm talking about. All right. So we don't need that. But so we got the error, and we can actually see up here. There it is. There's the query parameter. And I think. Nah, it's going to let me zoom up there. Well, you probably can't see it, but don't put your eye too close to the screen. It says, you know, the IP address and the port, and then /? Error. Once it sees the question mark, it knows it's looking at key value pairs. In this case, they're referred to as query parameters. And the value is the string we're looking at down here. Okay, this is what was passed by the server through query parameters to use as an error. And if we look in the index page, we can see, and we did this last time, so you can again take a look at that video if you need. When the home page loads, there's an if statement that checks is there a value in the error query parameter, and they're grabbing that here, request.args.get the value for any query parameter called error. It stores that in error. So if this doesn't find anything, it just stores nothing in error. And then we can say if error, which means if there's something in there, run this code. If not, run this code. So if there is something, then we take the value of the error and we add it inside of this paragraph, okay? And then when the function builds the home page out of these strings, so the header is just a string up at the top. These are all the pre-built strings. The edit header, the add form, the cross-off form, and the error element. These are all pieces of the home page being put together. Okay. So anyway, all that to say, we need to basically use this part here to build the error. All right. Actually, we need to use the part from cross-off. Okay. So we'll need an if statement, but it'll be different than this. I'm just going to grab all the way from here down to the redirect. Okay. And then I'll explain it as we change it. And so we can label some of this too to make it easier. So this removes unsafe characters. And now we want handles empty value. Okay, so we'll put that there and then we'll change it. So we already have the new movie being grabbed up here, so we don't need this. That's the first part of processing the form data, is grabbing it from wherever it comes from. So we're getting it from the host data in the request sent back by the server when we got the page. Okay, if this is where we need to check if it's no value, or I guess if it's empty string. So we can do, well, let's see what happens if we leave it blank now first. So we want to go back to the home page. So I'm just going to delete everything after here to get rid of the error. Okay. And now let's try to add blank. It just puts an empty string there. Okay, so we don't want that because you don't want a bunch of blanks getting added into someone's list once we actually start adding things to the list. So the first thing is we need to check if the value is empty. So we're going to see if new movie, because that's the value we're pulling from the form up here. Let's add a little comment there. Pulling from the form. Value from the form. All right, and then we're going to see if new movie, and we have to decide how we're going to determine this, and so we want to allow everything through that's not a blank empty string, right? Right now we're not checking for if it's just a space. Let's see. I don't think they mentioned that. But, I mean, we could get that specific. It's just, you'll have to figure that out if you want to add that yourself. So this will only fix it if they enter in nothing, not if they enter in spaces. So if you can think of how to fix that, I don't think it would be that difficult. Well, maybe it is. If you're curious about figuring that out, regular expressions might help. Or you could just check if the first character is a space and just reject anything that has a first character as a space. There are a lot of forms that will remove extra spaces at the front of the string, so that wouldn't work in every case, but here, since we are controlling the form, we can decide how we do it. But anyway, that's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for empty string. So we can do if new movie equals the empty string. Right? And if that's true, that means they put nothing in there, and we want to redirect them back to the home page with some advice on why it didn't work. All right. So we'll build an error, and we'll just put a little message that says the name field. Okay, so when you're writing errors or communications to the user, you have to make it as understandable as possible. So you did not enter a name. Is better than you did not enter a value in the name field. That's how I would describe it to someone who knew about that, but to a user you need to describe it in a way that more people will understand. Otherwise you're wasting your time. Okay, and then this will return them back to the home page before displaying the page. All right. So let's test it, and then we can commit it if it's right. So I saved it. We check if the server is still going. It is. Okay. And we can go back to our page, refresh it to make sure we have the correct one. Oops. Alternatively, you can just close it, and then from the terminal, you can control click the address again. I guess that wasn't really faster. All right, and we're going to try to add empty, and then it says you did not enter a name. So the user doesn't even realize we went to the other page, or have tried to go to the other page, because to them it just seems like they stayed here. But what the web server actually did was receive the form data, saw that it was something we told it was unacceptable, and so it just re-delivered the home page again, because that's where we told it to go, with a description of the error. All right, and that one is done. So we can get rid of that to do, save, and make sure we get that commit in. And to do that, we do git add dot first, and then we do git commit dash m, and then provide a comment. If you ever do git commit without doing the dash m, it opens the, I'll just show you, because this might happen to you and it would be scary and confusing if you don't know. So I'm just going to do git commit. All right, what just happened is the text editor in the terminal was opened. And we're looking at a text file right now. And it says, please enter the commit message for your changes. Lines starting with # will be ignored. Empty message. If you don't put anything, it just won't commit. So we can put added, validation for blank. Adding blank movie. Something like that. Okay, and then you hit escape, and then you hit colon WQ, which is write and quit. All right. Now, do you see how much more complicated that is? So don't forget to include your comment right on your commit line by doing -m. Though getting experience with using the text editor in the terminal is a good idea, because sometimes you'll be dealing with servers or computers that are just a terminal. Okay. But we're not done yet. Now we push. And then we cross our fingers. Now, all right. And now we have a stream of commits that we can observe in GitHub. Okay. So we're working on, Studio 3. Okay. And if we look at here, we can see that commit. That last commit we did. Let's see if we open the file and go to history. We can see everything that's happened to this file since it's been created. So April 18, 2017, the file was born. And then through April, some people updated it to make it a good example. And then on May 3rd, they did something, May 25th, and then on September 16th, I added something in 2019. And then these are what I've done today. So you can kind of quantify your work by measuring it in commits, right? Like, what did I do today? Well, I added validation, HTML validation here. I added validation for when people try to add a blank movie. And you can kind of see, it took me 22 minutes after I committed this to do this, right? You can kind of see your efficiency improve, and there's all kinds of things you can do with extra data. Or if it breaks, you can say, well, let's go back to a version that worked better. And so you can do something like click over here. This is the commit code or commit ID. I can't remember the exact terminology, but this is how Git keeps track of the changes from here. So we could click on that, and it'll show us that commit, what it looked like before the commit and what it looked like after the commit. So this after part can be used as a version, you know, right after this commit was done. And we could go back to that and work on that. Okay. Or do whatever we need to do. All right, so moving on. Last one says, if the user wants to add a terrible movie, redirect and tell them not to add it because it sucks. All right. So since this is our web app, we can control everything about it. So if there are certain movies we don't want anyone to be able to add, we can do that. All right, now in this example, we're doing it because of our own movie preferences, but you can think about there are movies are sorted into all sorts of categories. One of those categories is, you know, the age appropriate rating. So if this was a web app targeted towards kids, you might want to prevent movies, you know, rated R and up or whatever. And so this would be something similar that you would do. Okay. And so we can just copy this one here, because this anywhere where you see a branch in the function, in a route function like this, it needs to end in a return. So here we don't want it to get down here and return and build the page because they entered something wrong. So we want to get them back out of here before it happens. Same thing if they enter in a movie that we don't like or that we specify. It doesn't matter if we like it. So if they enter what's a notoriously boring movie? Oh, I know. Okay. Flying Ryan. I don't want anyone adding Flying Ryan to their watch list. So do not add this movie. All right, and then everything else is built correctly. Let's test it. Flying Ryan. When I try to add it, it says do not add this movie. All right. Go. Ooh. If you like movies about kids who find magic flying shoes, maybe you should check it out. If your name is Ryan, never let anyone know about this movie, or you will be called Flying Ryan for a while, potentially forever. Kind of like people named Aaron, thanks to Key and Peele, are all called Aaron now. All right, so those were our to-dos, I believe. Let's go back. I'm trying to find the directions here. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. So let's say you want to make an entire list of terrible movies. Okay. So before I do the commit, let's go back and take a look at I need to keep a running list of terrible movies here. Well, this is good because I know a lot of terrible movies to add. Okay. So we need a list that we can edit to keep track of the terrible movies. So let's put it near the get watch list. So we're going to do, there's a function to give us the current watch list. Let's make a new function to get terrible movies. All right. And we can add our movies in here. So let's put Flying Ryan. We know that one. Let's see. The Amazing Bulk. Let's add that one in there. Alright, and I know I know at least one other terrible movie here. And I only want to include movies here. That's not gonna that won't offend anyone here. I don't think anyone here would stand up for either of these movies. Oh well. I'll be interested to see what movies you guys put. I just want to demonstrate that we can do multiple in a list this way. Because you don't want to write an if statement for every single movie. So let's make one that adjusts to a list. So all we have to do is, instead of comparing it to one value, we can check if it's in the list. So to get that list, we created a get terrible movies. That gives us the list. So what this is saying is, get that list of terrible movies and compare each one to the value they entered. If you find any matches, print out, do not add this movie. Okay, so now it should work for both, and if it does, we can commit that, and then we'll be done. Okay, so let's try, and right now it's not case sensitive, but we could make it, no, right now it is case sensitive, but we could make it not case sensitive pretty easily. Well, let's see if it works first. The Amazing Bulk. Flying Ryan. Do not add this movie. All right, cool. But if I put The Amazing Bulk like this, it doesn't know to watch for that. Okay, so we don't want those getting through. That would be terrible. Okay. So basically, we need to change this. Let's try it this way. For movie in get terrible movies, if I think it's just two. We need to see Python how to lowercase. Oh, it's just lower. Okay. We want to lower the movie from the list, so that'll convert it to lowercase, and then compare that to the value in new movie, which is the value they typed in. So we're going to take both values, and they could be in any case, and then we will lowercase both of them, and then that's what we'll compare. All right. So that way they can't get it in there without, or by, you can't sneak it in. All right, and I think there shouldn't be a problem. Okay, let's see if that works. So we save it, go to the site, and then we need to just get in the habit of doing this. There are certain things that do need it and some that don't, but so we can put the amazing bulk. I really want to watch it. Whoops, lower is not defined. Maybe I made a typo. Well, maybe I didn't read the whole thing. Oh. It's a method. It's not a function, it's a method. Okay. So, we don't have to. It's not a function we can use where we explicitly provide a string. We imply that this string wants to be lowered by using the method of string. All right. There we go. I'll have to restart the server since, nope, it looks like it stayed up. Okay. Probably because, actually I don't know why. But it works, so let's not worry about that right now. Okay, so we need to go back, refresh, and now we try amazing bulk in lowercase. Okay, but I really want to watch it, so let's see if I can trick it. Do not add this movie. All right, well, that seemed to work. So our last step is to commit it. So the steps are git add dot, and then git commit -m added validation for terrible movies. And then we push that. Okay. Now we can check. Here's the history of the main.py. Let's refresh the page. There it is. So here's what we did. We added 3 types of validation. And we can see when we added them. Okay. I think that was all of our tasks. All right. So you'll need to use these skills and the things I've shown you in the next assignment, the user sign up, okay, for the validating part and the redirecting part for sure. But in the next part, so you guys should be looking at this prep work here and taking a look at this, because we actually have a new language that we're going to learn called Jinja 2, and it's used to build templates that we can use to build our pages instead of just using a giant string. Okay, so we'll look at that. So you guys look at that. You can do take a look at this interactive lesson here. These interactive lessons, I believe, are just videos walking you through how to do it. So that way, when you watch me do it, you'll be able to relate what was done in this video to what we're doing in the other video, and you can call me out if I'm wrong, which is really helpful, because I don't want to be telling people the wrong things. All right. And then, so we'll be doing those kind of things in Studio 4. And then you guys will be ready to go off on your own and do user sign up. Of course, you don't have to wait. So if you do have Web Caesar done or you finish it, go ahead and you can work ahead if you want. But I'll be going over the Flicklist 4 walkthrough in Studio next time, so next Tuesday, and then you guys should be ready. All right. Thank you for watching and have a good day.